So we'll keep it light. We'll keep it conversational. We'll just get into it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, just starting from kind of like we talked, like I think my personal and athletic journey have all been kind of always been an uphill battle. And the cool part for me is I'm not able to like really give people like, hey, here's the happy ending to this, but I'm able to like help them at whoever I talk to, whether it's a young athlete or an adult, just saying like, hey, yeah, it sucks. I know it sucks with you, but there's hope in this, and like I hope my story helps you, and so that's kind of what I've been able to do. But it starts, in high school. I went to a small school, didn't get any looks, ended up walking on to CSU, playing as a true freshman, getting scholarship. They said, all right, we're going to scholarship you second semester. It was a done deal. Coach gets fired. New guy comes in, don't get the scholarship, cuts me right in the middle of spring ball, or right at the end of spring ball. I head up to, I finally get a walk-on deal with Boulder. I know nothing about what's going on in Boulder. I don't know if I'll ever see the field again, but just chasing a dream. I knew, like we were talking about the why earlier, I knew my why was this was bigger than just football. This is a statement, this is a life goal, and I'm going to play it till the game's completely taken away from me.
Yeah.
So yeah, then that summer, on top of everything, man, I'm at home because I got cut from CSU, and my friends try to cheer me up. But we buy tickets to the Batman premiere showing, and about 15 minutes into the movie, I look up at the screen and I see like the door open, and an armed gunman comes in, throws some tear gas canisters, starts shooting. I see a shotgun, and he's just firing over my head. Duck down with some friends. I hit this, the fire stops, and so I yell at my friends to go, and we crawl out of there, just through just things that nobody should have to ever see in their lives, and the journey of dealing with the PTSD from that, and also trying to chase a dream was it was overwhelming, man. It was a bad season, and get to see you, can't play, obviously you had to redshirt, and then eventually get a start there for 3 years, make a difference. Spoke at tons of places, shared my story, and I'm a super religious guy, and I know the only way I was able to get through that is God, and that's what I share with people, whether they want to hear it or not. And using such a my goal from that is like using a horrible event, using horrible circumstances for a small amount of good. There's no way to make an awful event completely good, but let me take what I can and try to use it the best I can to help other people out. So man, it's been crazy life journey. So I appreciate you having me on the podcast, man. I'm able to share
Yeah.
this stuff.
Oh my God. And I mean, and I'll say this, like for, for anybody who's listening, Jordan Murphy is a former teammate of mine at the University of Colorado, and the stuff that he's sharing, like he's referring to the Aurora shooting that happened here in Colorado when he was there with a few of his friends, which another one of your other friends was also a teammate at the University of Colorado. And it's just like anybody who hears that, it's hard to hear it. And it's hard to think that, because you never think that something like that would ever happen in your lifetime, because when you see it, like your heart goes out to people like that, but it's just so difficult when something like that happens to you. And the way you put it was like, I mean, it was beautiful with taking something traumatic and taking something that a lot of people would consider to be a mess in their life and turn it into your message. And that's, I mean, that's honestly, that's some of the stuff that I've done. And that, I mean, that really is why I do what I do. My life's experience, my messes that I've dealt with are now in a place where I can help other people excel, because I obsessed about becoming greater than my mess and turning it into a message, and understanding how it could really impact other people. And the fact that you've been able to do that for yourself is, I mean, it's a testament for the type of person that you are. Like you said, you're a man of faith, and there's actually a kind of touching on what you just said. One of the things that was a unique challenge for you, Jordan Murphy was and there's a few things we'll dive into, but one, you were fullback, and so um, when you were getting ready to come out of the University of Colorado and look at going into the NFL, a lot of the time you would hear from coaches or scouts or anything like that, they would say, if you were a little bit taller, that you'd probably have a better shot. And I mean, I don't want to necessarily take the quote away from you, but
Yeah.
as it pertains to some of the stuff you went through, um, you kind of you had something beautiful to say in it, where you said, if I was a little bit taller, I'd probably be dead.
Yeah. No, my whole life I mean, I have brothers who are 4 or 5 inches taller than me. My whole life, all I wanted to be was 2 inches taller. Because if I'm 2 inches taller, I don't get cut. I'm not a walk. I mean, beat my height, being just right at 6 foot or under 6 foot in my boots, my Tims. But I'm like 5'11" and a half, man, and being taller would have been all I needed. And that whole life I'm being bitter about it, and that ends up being the thing that saves my life. And so it's all, being content and trusting God. This is how you made me. This is how you want me. And it's tough for people to be content with the things that they think are, like they think it is an issue with themselves or a flaw. Can sometimes be a blessing.
Yeah, absolutely. And um, so you go through something like that, and you have that almost that realization of, and what Jordan and I are kind of referring to, when he was leaving the theater, there was a bullet fired that went right over his head. And if Jordan was 2 inches taller, I wouldn't be speaking with him here now, and he wouldn't be able to share his story with the world. Um, what is something like that, in terms of, because you said you almost created, it almost sounds like you had this level of acceptance that you started to have, and saying, I am perfect the way that I am, because there's there's been almost this divine power within your life that made sure that you were the way you are, because you had a bigger purpose to serve in having that experience and sharing that out. And if you weren't the person that you were, you wouldn't be able to do that. What is something like that? Like, what was that shift for you that happened, and what happens to kind of the way you treat your mental state for yourself?
Yeah, that shift, right after that, it was finally like putting it all together. I realized, like, no matter what comes my way, whether it's, something that I wish was different about myself or different about my situation, I had to stop, obsessing over it and thinking that it's an issue. Instead of looking at, here's my situation, how can I, how can I make this the best? I was sitting there, worrying about the little things that I wanted to change. So um, it's kind of a tough part of the journey.
Yeah, I mean, and that would be hard for anybody. I mean, you think
Yeah,
about um, kids who wish that they were born into a different family, or they were, they're a little bit taller, they had a little bit different genetics or anything like that. That it's really just kind of this comparison that we as people make with ourselves, comparing ourselves to people who we think are being successful, and we start to pull out almost the traits that we think are behind it. Um, but the crazy thing is that there are, when you look at the people who make the biggest impact in the world, a lot of them at their core, they have these beginnings where they say, I didn't know anything, or I wasn't the best, or I wasn't the tallest, I wasn't the smartest, wasn't the strongest, wasn't any of those things. And it becomes this, I had to figure out what made me special and unique to be able to really go into the world and make a massive impact. And for you, what was that for you?
yeah. I think I, started to realize that hey, there's a reason that God makes every single person different because He has a different purpose for everybody. Nobody's meant to be just doing the same thing. Like the things that were my flaws in some areas, or something I ended up needing for my exact purpose. And so I think everybody has a specific purpose and something they're supposed to do and something that they're better at than anybody. And so for me, it was like I want to discover, this purpose. And These are the cards I was dealt. This is the situation. This is what it is. I could either sit and be bitter about it, and wallow in it, or I can just go and attack the situation. I was like, you know what? I'm going to use my journey and every single thing that happens to me to honor the victims in the theater that never got out, because they'd love to chase dreams. They'd love to be in my shoes that escaped out of there. So
Yeah.
it's time to stop feeling sorry for myself, and it's time to start, like you said. I love that what you said, man. It's a great quote. Let my mess be my message. And that's kind of what I was ready to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And your ability to, I mean, like you just said, the thing that was bigger than you, that was unique for you, is understanding now like how you found your purpose, and now your ability to identify what purpose really means in your life allows other people to start uncovering what purpose might mean in their life. Because our purpose, it's bigger than ourselves. There's the I mean, there's the level of self where we sit and we think, this is the type of person that I am, this is how I usually do certain things. Kind of that almost egotistical layer. And when I say ego, it's really just understanding self-importance.
Yeah,
And then there's that next level where you start to transcend yourself and you start to be able to say, I am a piece in a much bigger puzzle, and being able to figure out which part of the puzzle you really fit in to make the absolute biggest impact that you can with your gifts and your skills and all these other things, and identify those skills and those gifts to be able to help you along the way, is now something that's a gift that you can give to other people.
yeah. No, absolutely, man. It's like, um, yeah, like you said, that it's a gift. These awful things are something that I can use now to offer to other people and meet them where they're at. Because before, it was all about me. I had a little pride thing going on of like, hey, life's about me, and then I just had to lose that, and humble myself and be like, I'm here for other people. I'm not here for me. And I think if you can live a life with that mindset, it changes everything for you, for sure.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, everything that comes into our life is a reflection of us.
Yeah,
And the lesson that you learned within within the experience that you had, it helped you uncover, something that, and I've been, so I'm a big audiobook person, because if I read 2 pages of a book, I'm going to be passed out on the floor.
oh yeah,
So so for me, I mean, I've been really committing myself to just learning and just absorbing this information from people who are smarter and wiser than I am. And one book that I recently got really into, that I would recommend, if you're ever going to listen to it or read it, you need to be locked in. It's a book called As a Man Thinketh, and it really breaks down on this incredibly detailed level of why our lives are the way they are, and how we can create a life on almost a higher plane. And what you just said, you had to, in order for good things to start happening in your life, you had to make that internal change in order for your external things to start reflecting that. And a great analogy from the book is kind of like, if you live in a small apartment that's kind of run down and things like that, you always dream of having a big, nice, neat house that you can call home and you can be peaceful in, you can be all these other things. But if someone just gave that to you, over time, you would realize that living in that big house, it doesn't change the way you feel about your home, because you haven't changed at your core what a house means to you, what a home means to
yeah,
you. And so the book dives into, if you want to have anywhere that you live be perfect for you, always, always make sure that your bed is made and it's inviting you to be able to rest after a long day. Set your table, no matter what kind of table it is, as if it were the nicest table in the world, and clean your home as if it were the nicest home in the world, so that when you get those things, when they start coming into your life, they're a reflection of how you treat life. And what you just said in terms of when that change happened, all these beautiful things started coming into your life. It's a reflection of who you are, and the man that you are. And it's, I mean, you couldn't have put it any better with how you made that change as a person.
Yeah, I mean, that's an absolutely true statement. When you change, who you are at your core, you change, what you value, and you change what your purpose is. Everything starts changing around you. Changes your actions. Your actions starts changing your group social interactions start changing your status and just who you are as a person and the connections you make, and then your life starts changing. Like you said, you can change the environment all you want, but you can't. But if you change the person, I mean, that's where the biggest changes happen.
Yeah. And so slightly changing gears here, but not so much. Maybe it's a good segue. You have been what I would probably consider to be um like a persevering warrior, like almost your whole life. You and going through that was one of the things that helped mold you into that type of person. Um, but actually, when you were even younger, I remember you sharing a story with me about how you broke your leg,
Yeah,
and um, and anybody who knows, like, there are leg breaks, and then there are like real leg breaks where it takes a long recovery process and all these other things. Um, if you wouldn't mind sharing that story from your perspective and really what helped you get through that, because there are so many athletes out there who have never had a serious injury, or athletes who are currently probably dealing with injury. And as you know, one of the longest processes is the mental part of it. When you injure yourself, the physical side has a pretty finite timeline, but the mental side of it can go for so much longer, because you have these uncertainties and these doubts and other things like that about your body, because you've realized, you know when you put enough stress on a part of your body, it'll break, or
yeah,
something will happen.
yeah. So broke my leg, tibia fibula fracture, in high school. I was going to make a tackle, and this super slow quarterback, like this guy's probably never made this move in his life, pressed the circle if we're playing PS2, and did a spin move, and I went to cut. My foot was planted in the turf, and so I snapped those two bones in there. And the tough part about an injury that all athletes know is not just the physical recovery, man. It is the mental and emotional recovery. There's a lot of social distancing. You lose a part of being with the team. You lose your routine. Psychologically, it takes a toll on you. It's very arduous, and um, that was the hard part for me, was just trying to get back. I mean, you do all the PT, but it's really the lonely journey, and that's what I encourage athletes that have injuries is find some support, find somebody who wants to work with you, grab another hurt person, say, hey, me and you, we're gonna work hard and get back together. Don't make it, a solo act. So
Yeah. So, and is that what you used when you were going through your recovery, was finding someone who you could kind of almost have as, like, I mean, there's this sense of entrainment where when you're with somebody, when two people are together, your energy will kind of match each other. And when you have a purpose that's bigger than this, the sum of the two individual parts, you train towards that goal and you reach something higher than either one of you could do on your own. Is that what you did when you were injured, or was there something else that helped you get through it?
yeah, when I was injured, I think the thing that helped me the most was, there was another offensive lineman on our team that broke his femur, and so it was me and him were the crutch buddies, and just having somebody to work out with, get back with, do upper body with, which is, if you have an upper body friend, that's huge. Find a guy who likes upper body. That's another recommendation there. So yeah, I did a ton of upper body with this guy, man, and you bond on the bench press. But really, in all seriousness, you lock in with somebody that's on the journey with your goals, and that helped me more than anything, because it's like, here's a guy that can't do what I can. As well, we're both limited. We can't walk right now on crutches. And just finding somebody like, let's challenge each other. So even if it's not somebody's hurt, but it's somebody just like, hey, you want to work out with me? Like, I want to get back. You want to do these PT exercises with me? You have nothing to do. Let's go get in shape. Let's jog. As I'm getting back, things like that. So I had him and my dad, and it was fun. And
Yeah.
that's because at first it's you feel very lonely and you isolate yourself.
Yep. And I mean, that goes against everything that athletes experience being a part of sports is, I mean, very rarely, even if you're in like an individual sport, I mean, you look at something like whether it's tennis or, golf or any of this other stuff, that are for the most part individual sports, they still have someone who's with them all the time that's working with them to try and create, help them reach this bigger goal. and and they're kind of used to having someone there who is just naturally with them a lot. And when you're an athlete on like a team sport, whether it's basketball, volleyball, soccer, football, when you get injured, you're losing so much more because you're just so used to being around so many other people that there really is this kind of isolation that occurs because um, there's that old phrase of like, you can't make the team sitting in the training room.
Yeah, you can't make the club in the tub.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's just and it's there for a reason because it almost puts this like negative, like if you get injured, there's this insult to injury that goes along with it. So there's this really tough state that most athletes get put into. And for you to put it in a manner of, people are going through that, one, like, it's a part of life, it's a part of the game. There are times when you get hurt and you can play through being a little bit hurt, and then there are times when you're injured and you really have to
yeah,
focus on being injured and getting
yeah,
back.
yeah. It's a Yeah. There's hurt and there's injured. Hurt, the hurt means that you can work through the pain, and you can, you know, injured means this is your main focus. You medically you shouldn't play. You can't physically play. It's time for you to focus on just getting better. That's your job now to the team. That's how you gotta look at it. Like, this is what I owe the team. You might feel like you don't matter. Hey, no, you do matter. It's your job to rehab and get better as fast as you can. Your role has now changed, and roles always change. So that's the thing. Way to look at an injury. Don't look at it as you know, I'm fired. I'm off the team. No, you have a new role. It's time to embrace it.
Yeah, and you put it, and when you say like roles can always change, like it's so true. I was having a session with one of my pro athletes the other day, and it was exactly what we were talking about was how you define, what makes you a great athlete. And whenever I ask anybody, like, what do you think is going to make you a great athlete? I don't think I've ever heard anybody ever mention like being a starter will make me a great athlete. Like no
Yeah,
one ever says that. They always say things like, you know, being relentless or being continuously motivated, being supportive, being a leader, being all these other things. And but for some reason, they associate all these incredible qualities with, oh, I can only have those things, come forth from me when I'm, out on the field making big plays and getting praise from team and coaches and all these other things. But if you're not, then suddenly people think those qualities um, should dissipate, or it's a like, I thought, if I asked somebody who wasn't starting and I asked them, how can you be a great athlete, they would say, well, I need to get out on the field and then I'm allowed to be a great athlete. And there's this belief that being a great athlete means you have to be out on the field. And but in reality, when I go back to what some people define a great athlete as, it's the same thing that makes you a great person: being motivated, being humble, being a leader, being hungry for success. Those are all things that, as an athlete, when you can realize that what you define as being an elite athlete in your own life is going to also be something that makes you just a great person. And if you believe that some condition needs to exist in order for you to actually put that kind of stuff into play, then you're putting yourself at a disadvantage because you're making your success conditional.
yeah, no, absolutely. That I mean, that's awesome that you're having these conversations with pro athletes, because it seems like in this world there's not a lot of pro athletes that will think like that. So um, definitely a commendable message.
And so after college, let's talk about that for a little bit. So you get done with college and you start getting ready to go and get ready for the NFL. Um, you know, fill in the gaps between like when college ended and when I mean and really kind of where you are now.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, with my goal of football from a young age was I'm going to play this game until it's absolutely stripped away from me. And like I said, after I get out of that theater, it was all these things I was doing were to honor the victims and that I couldn't chase dreams that wanted to chase these dreams. And so I owed it to them to do it. I was a long shot, man. I mean, yeah, I started, yeah, I did all these good things, but man, the fullback's a dying position, and there's some great ones in that class, and I was a long shot, and even the coach at CU, Coach Mack at the time, told me that, and so I knew it was going into it was an uphill battle, and like I said, that was kind of the journey of my life. So I was ready. I took it on. I trained harder than anybody. I improved all the things I needed to. I had straight Statue of Liberty, stone, whatever it's made of, Statue of Liberty hands, man, terrible hands. And I improved those. Dude, I didn't drop a single ball at pro day, like I balled out and did everything I needed to. And so I, did everything I could, improved it, ran great numbers, and the draft came through and never ended up never getting a call, and that was the end of it. So the game was taken away from me, and that was how it was supposed to be. And like we talked about earlier, I can complain about the way things ended up, but that wasn't part of my purpose. This isn't what God asked for me, and I had to wrestle with that and battle that thought process. Man, it's a dark road, but it's it taught me so much.
Yeah. And in the thing that no one sees is, I mean, everybody sees kind of that, whatever you want to call it, the 1% or the 2% of collegiate athletes who make it to the pro level. That's what's usually celebrated. Um, but what's not really shown so much in whether it's media or other stuff like that, which is honestly why I want to do what I do in terms of having conversations with people who have been able to not only have a sport kind of from a participation standpoint come to an end, but then that athlete is able to create a transition in their life and they're saying, I'm on to a new phase of my life. I don't have to start over. I don't have to try and figure out, who I am or any of that other stuff. Because as most people know, if you've ever been an athlete, like when the game ends for you, and I went through this exact same thing, when the game ended for me, I went through identity loss. I went through depression. I felt like I was starting over from scratch in almost every area of my life. I felt like I didn't really have something that I was working towards anymore. And it was really kind of like this fish out of water feeling. Um, and it was long before I realized that my sports career ending was really a reflection of when I was in college, I was my own worst enemy. I played, and I say this all the time, so everybody who's listening could probably say it by now, but I was a long snapper, and I was my own worst enemy. I just I had this like evil twin, this like evil gremlin that lived in my head who constantly put pressure, wanted me to get out of a zone of pressure, because as a long snapper you don't get an opportunity to mess up, and the fear of messing up caused this just ugly cloud to show up and just tell me, like, just get it over with, just screw up now so that you can get out of this. And my sports career ending was, now I can look back and I can say, holy crap, like this was 100% something that I made myself. Now, you were much further further along than I was. in the way that you handled yourself, the way you held yourself, and the way you carried yourself throughout your mental journey. But then sports ends. How did that transition period go for you, and what helped you get through that?
Yeah, man. I resonate with everything you said. Identity loss is the big thing. And as soon as I didn't get that call, it was like, man, this is my whole entire life is built towards this. This is my identity. This is what everybody talked to me about. This is all I thought about, all I trained for. I did everything. I made my life around this thing. And then it was the thing, like just working through it and realizing I made football, the purpose of my life, and that is always, if anything, but the purpose of your life isn't for God, you're going to be let down. And so for me, making football the purpose and the main goal of my life was what kind of got me in this place in the first place. You can set goals, you can work super hard for things, and that's healthy. But it's not healthy when you make it an idol. And so I was back to discovering and going through the process of finding purpose, and I went back to, okay, out of the theater, what did I decide? And it was, I'm going to go chase dreams, and I'm going to go use a bad situation to help people. And so I made my goal people oriented, and so I got into strength and conditioning and health and fitness and helping people get better. And I just kind of gave my life to other people, and I speak at places about my journey. I spoke at a church a couple of weeks ago, and just all these things opened up when my eyes were open to the needs of people and things like that. And so once you take your eyes up off the mirror and you start looking out the window, okay, it helps.
Yeah, there are so many people who, I mean, you almost have to have that moment where you look in the mirror and you're willing to tell yourself, you know, this is who I am and this is what I need to stand for, and almost have that self-realization checkpoint. But like you said, as soon as you start being able to allow yourself to start looking elsewhere and looking for, it's never been about me, it's about the impact that I can have on other people. I mean, that's when your gifts start really flowing. And that's
Yeah,
when you can start making this positive change in everybody's life around you. Um, and I mean, I've said it a few times, but the fact that you've been able to do that, and you've not only experienced this stuff really kind of on your own, you know, you've never had like a life coach. And truth be told, like, honestly, nobody ever really, like, it's not like every person in the world needs a life coach. It's just one of those things where when people feel lost or they're not able to figure this stuff out, that's when a life coach can come in and can really help some of these people. And when they can't kind of do it for themselves, whereas you were able to really do it for yourself. You're able to have those self realizations that are so difficult for someone young to be able to have. And I mean, some people call it growing up quick. Some people call it like, you have an epiphany at some point. But the fact that you've been able to, that you're saying this type of stuff, that's, I mean, honestly, at such a high level, not only mentally, but spiritually as well, in terms of how you treat other people and how you connect with them, it's incredibly impressive. And now you've dedicated yourself to being there and being helpful to other people through really kind of a medical and educational approach. Um, Talk a little bit about, like, I mean, so you talk about like health and fitness and strength and conditioning and other stuff like that, but you also teach, right?
yeah, yeah. So I think to go back to what you were saying about life coaching, I think the service that you offer is just absolutely invaluable for people that are in the position that I was. After sports ends, like that post exit counseling is huge. And I wish I had that because I could have got to that place quicker and more, um, less of a difficult journey. It would have been nicer to go to that place right away and have be directed instead of go through a, tough. It was a lot of self loathing, things like that. Man, it'd be healthier to go through it the other way. But Uh, yeah, to answer the question, um, it's a it's a tough process, um, for everything. So I'm still navigating it, but health and fitness really opened a door for things, and I'm able to use that to develop a passion to teach. And now I'm at the University of Denver teaching courses there. I'm also helping out at uh, a high school, and doing strength and conditioning stuff, getting athletes ready. Then I did some mom fitness, little mommy fitness, and all body types, shapes, and sizes, man. And I've seen some of the worst athletes and the best athletes. So you get a broad spectrum of it. Everybody needs help in it. It's like everybody needs to exercise in some form, and I think it's what I do is able to meet them there. So it's good.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, absolutely. I mean, and I'll say this, like, even since I've been done with playing sports and stuff, I went through the ebbs and flows of my own fitness journey. And I mean, still to today, and I think it was a few years ago that when I found out that you were doing like really strength and conditioning and fitness training, um, I had reached out to you and I was just like, hey man, like I could really use a little bit of help here. And you so graciously were like, you know what? Like, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you probably saw a picture of me and you're like, yeah, you need some help. And
It's
then
like,
I
yeah, it's
shortly
all life
got,
alert now.
and then, um, oh my gosh, the stuff that you introduced, one, I had almost never done before. Most of it I had never done before. Two is some of like the most difficult stuff that I ever did, but it immediately started making a difference in my life. Not only because I think I told you after week one, I don't think there was a single workout that I actually completed all the way. Um, I
Oh,
threw in the towel before I could, like my muscles threw in the towel before I could finish. And then week two, it was just this like reaching the summit moment when I actually finished a workout. And then you start getting better and better and better. And it's amazing. And so honestly, who, anybody who's interested, like you should honestly try and get in touch with Jordan Murphy, find him on LinkedIn,
yeah.
or anywhere. And seriously, I mean, he helps people change their life. And um, so kind of, I want to roll the red carpet out for you. Like, what are some
Yeah.
things that you're working on now that if people want to learn a little bit about, support you, follow you, support your journey, or really be an advocate for stuff that you do, how can they do that, or how could they get in touch with
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. Like I said, the fitness thing is just a desire to help people of all shapes and sizes. So no matter where you're at, if you're recovering from an injury, if you're want to just lose weight, if you're a bodybuilder, you want to add some more muscle. I mean, I want anybody and everybody to find a place. Everybody has a place in fitness, and I don't think anybody should just write it off and be like, that's not for me, because everybody it's for everybody. And that's why I want to use my knowledge and my master's degree and things like that to just help people in this field. So that's kind of the goal. Right now, I had a thing, Body by Murph Gun, kind of shut that down. So now I really just help friends and family out with, they're making them programs, fitness stuff, teaching at the University of Denver, and just kind of figuring out next steps from there. But man, I do a ton of things, man. I'm pretty involved in music. I'm recording an EP, and I just do a bunch of different stuff, man. I'm bouncing all over the place. So I can keep the details going, and I don't have much of a red carpet right now, but I appreciate people just listening to me, man, and hearing my journey. And I know there'll come a day where the shout out from this legend right here, Keegan Lamar, will go a super long way, and I'll have a bunch of stuff for you guys. I'll have a website to send you to. Right now, I don't have much, but I just appreciate the love and support.
Oh, of course. And I mean, one, I'm gonna need a pre-screening of that EP that's
Oh,
coming
dude,
out.
I will let you hear it, man.
And
July 20th. Yeah.
I'm gonna need something in a digital format so I can put it in some podcast episodes
Yes,
and
man.
just
Yeah.
be like, listen to this golden voice right here. Because anybody who, so for those of you who don't know Jordan, he's an amazing musician. He is a very good singer, even though like when I first met him and someone said like, oh yeah, he's a musician. He can, play the guitar, play the piano, sing really well. I said, bull crap. There's no way that this man who, when you look at Jordan, he's like every bit of, 200 plus pounds of absolutely pure muscle. And when you played, you were like, what, 230 ish,
Yeah, about
240,
240. Yeah, nearing 240.
240. And the dude had a six pack. So, and now you're just even more like you could probably go and compete right now if you really wanted to, which, it just shows like the amount of dedication that you have, not only to yourself, but when you help people, you've done so much with your body and you do it in a healthy way. And I say a healthy way because I came in to see you, and I think I told you this, but if you've, just to refresh your memory, and I haven't told this on the podcast, when I went in to see you, I was 295 pounds. I was an all-state offensive lineman, and I was also a long snapper. And, but I came from a family where my dad, who played in the NFL, he was a lineman, and I, from like the age of 6 onwards, I was fed like I was cattle. And so I graduated high school and I go in to see you, and they basically say, hey, you're a long snapper now, like officially, you need to lose some serious weight. And at the end of my freshman year playing there, I was about 285 pounds. So, and this is where the unhealthy part comes in. We were entering winter conditioning, and I had consulted with a guy who trained bodybuilders, and he's like, if you really want to cut off weight, like a ton of weight really quickly, and you need to, you're going to cut out all these different things. Like basically the only thing I could have was water, vegetables, and pretty much like chicken. That was it. So I did that for 2 weeks during winter conditioning. And any athlete who knows winter conditioning, it's some of the worst conditioning because the season's over and you're now in the phase of like your free game where they just run you into the ground and with, a lot of endurance stuff. I passed out a couple times from just like having no carbs in my body. I lost 60 pounds in 2 weeks.
Mm.
And when I hit 235, I thought to myself, okay, I'd woken up, I'd weighed myself, I was 235, and I said, all right, I'm going to start adding in some carbs. So I started having like oatmeal in the morning, stuff like that. And I would go to bed, and when I would weigh myself before I went to bed, and when I woke up, I was 3 pounds lighter. And that happened for the next 4 days. I had lost another 12 to 15 pounds after trying to reintroduce carbs. And I realized my metabolism was running so high because I was eating 7 times a day. The only way to slow it down was I went out to King Soopers and bought a box of Twinkies. Not one, but 7. 7 whole boxes, like family size boxes of Twinkies. And I ate a whole box of them every single day for a week to shut down my metabolism so I would stop losing weight because I was starting to have some problems. And my final weight was 220. And at that point I needed to put back on weight, which luckily my body type is relatively geared towards is putting back on muscle. So I finally resonated at like 235 pretty well for the rest of my college career. But oh my gosh, I should never be allowed to give health and fitness advice ever with that kind of backstory. So if you're ever curious as to who might be a better resource, you probably would want to reach out to Jordan because not only like the tips you gave me for things to eat, things that are going to be really healthy for you, like it's all really positive. You never say like don't do this or don't do that. It's all about what you can have in your life. And then the workouts, I mean, they're brutal, but there's this sense of like when you just beat yourself to a pulp in the gym or whatever you're doing, um, especially with me being in a position of like, hey, let's do something that's like totally no weights or any of this other stuff. Like you still find a way to support whatever anybody needs. Um, so if there's some family out there that wants to have a personal trainer on staff to just train their whole family, you should probably
Sign
reach out
me
to
up.
Jordan.
I'd love it. Yeah. I love the family, man. Let me, I'll take everybody. Yeah, I'll take everybody, man. Old people, young people, wherever you're at. And that's the thing is like, I know you. And so I knew that I could give you workouts that you weren't going to be able to do at first. I knew that would just motivate you. I know people that you shouldn't do that for, but you gotta give programs that are specific for people, customizable type things. And so I knew Keegan's gonna get pissed off about this, and he's gonna go get those reps next week. So
Yeah,
it's all the hidden challenge, and I know you did, and I knew you would. So it's not even a surprise when you tell me the story now. So
it was wild. And I mean, Jordan, I couldn't say thank like one, like I feel so blessed to have people like you a part of my life because um like me, I mean, one, you're a man of faith. Two, you're someone who has done a lot of deep work in their life to really understand um, and almost obsess over, why they do anything because you understand that making an impact on other people's lives is greater than what you get in your own life. Um, and to say that I'm thankful for people like you would be an absolute understatement. And you be and anybody who's listening to this, within the first 5 minutes of talking to him, he shares one of the like what most people would take a long time to probably feel comfortable sharing. That's how much of an open book Jordan is, and that's just the type of person that he is. Um, so I appreciate you, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being a part of my journey. I mean, I'm just trying to help one person at a time, and I know there'll be at least one person who probably listens to this. Thank you, Mom. Which for the longest time, she actually didn't listen to them because she didn't know how to access them. So I fixed that, and now I get at least one unique listen each podcast episode.
yes,
But this will definitely reach a lot of people, not just on the surface level. I think what you shared will really impact them at a much deeper level, and for that, I just have to say thank you.
no, man, and it's nothing but love, brother. I appreciate you. I know, ever since college, I know the type of guy you are, and like we were talking about earlier with our friend, good old friend Isaac, like you're somebody I could tell is just destined for success, man. And it's fun to watch this journey and help in any way I can. But man, do not quit what you're doing because I could see the gift you have, and I experience it. And so just keep it going, man. Never want to see you lose that. So I appreciate you having me on and just letting me share, man. And um, it's fun being on.
Of course, and this for sure. I mean, I'm assuming people are going to absolutely love you, and so for now, we'll say, kind of a farewell for now. But I'm sure we'll have
Yeah,
you on
love
again,
to
and
come back anytime, man.
oh yeah, and we'll probably have to. You probably have to beat me up in the gym sometime. We'll have to record it
Oh, dude,
for everybody and put it out that way. But
let's
um,
do it.
but until then, I appreciate you and this has been awesome.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate the time and everything you're doing, and can't wait to get an upper body session with you sometime. No legs allowed.
No, no legs because we're at that phase of our life where if we try and do legs, we need at least 2 weeks to recover.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the phase. Those upper 20s, man. They'll get you.
Well, Jordan, I appreciate you.
And I appreciate you. You take care and tell the baby hey for me. She'll have no clue who I am, but tell the wife hey as well. So
I will.
congratulations to you guys.
Baby Henry, I'll show him pictures of you and we'll and he'll become motivated.
I love it. Yeah, absolutely, man. I love it. So take care, brother.
All right. Take care, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Later.
Bye.